Today's lesson is Travel Safety 101, 6 essential tips for staying safe abroad. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And we're continuing to talk about some tips for staying safe when you travel abroad, because a lot of you may be traveling overseas during the upcoming holiday season. And yes, indeed, we want you to stay safe. Of course, we don't want you to be ripped off or robbed at all. And of course, we don't want you to get hurt or anything like that. So yes, we're talking about some safety tips. And we already gave you a couple of tips in our last lesson. One was to not look like a tourist. What else did we tell you to do?
We told you to do some research, to check out the local situation for crime or political unrest or things like that, and also just read up on what that city is like for tourists. You might get some good tips. I think most popular places in the world are generally safe. That's why they're still popular. But they can also be popular with pickpockets and street criminals and things like that. And there will be other social risks, just risks in the society in the country you're visiting. So you have to take some responsibility for yourself, do some research, be well informed. Put together a good plan, be sensible, keep your eyes up, keep your head up, and keep noticing what's going on around you. And you can probably guarantee yourself a very fun time with just a little bit of preparation. One thing we're going to look at in today's article is another really good set of tips on keeping your money safe. Because, of course, if someone steals your cash or your credit card, that is definitely going to put a crimp or a cramp in your shopping style. So let's find out how to do that.
Keep your money safe. Don't carry too much cash with you. Most hotel rooms have safes you can use to store extra money and valuables. Split the cash you do carry between different places so you can't lose it all at once. If you need to withdraw money from an ATM, choose one inside a bank rather than one on a busy street. And be especially careful in tourist hotspots, because these tend to attract pickpockets.
大家好，第一部分介绍动词 split， 它的意思是分开、分摊或是分裂。例如 The once united movement began to split due to internal disagreements. 这个曾经团结的运动因内部意见不合而开始分裂。再来看到动词 withdraw， 表示提款。例如 You can use an ATM to withdraw cash from your account. 你可以用自动提款机来领出你账户里的现金。或是 I withdrew $50 on Monday and I've spent it all already. 我星期一提领了$50，现在已经全花完了。
Okay, so remember, money is probably the most important thing when you travel abroad. Maybe even more important than your passport.
Money in a comfy pair of shoes.
Indeed. Keep your money safe. And, of course, we've got some advice for you regarding that. We say don't carry too much cash with you. Most hotel rooms have safes you can use to store extra money and valuables. Okay, so yeah, don't bring a whole wad of cash with you, because if you get robbed, you're going to lose everything. I guess you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Just bring enough money with you on a daily basis and leave the rest back in your hotel room in a safe, or maybe they have a safe behind the front desk in the hotel you're staying at. A safe, of course, is kind of a metal box that can be closed with a lock. It probably has a combination lock, and of course, if you put things in there, nobody can steal them, or at least it would be very difficult for them to steal those things.
That's right, a good place to store or to keep your extra money, any extra cash that you don't need to walk around that day. Traveler's checks, too, if some people like to use that older system. And also your valuables. If you do take some of that fancy jewelry that we told you not to walk around with, but you're going to wear it to a party, maybe you're going there for a wedding or something like that. So you do have some jewelry and other expensive things, valuables, put those in there. Also, some people would say put your passport in there. If you want to walk around, carry a photocopy of your passport. We're going to talk about that later, but a passport on a holiday is definitely a valuable, something you don't want to lose or have stolen. So anything that's kind of precious, valuable, or a real problem if you lose it, put that in your safe. Here's another good tip for the cash. Split the cash you do carry between different places so you can't lose it all at once. You probably don't need to walk around with 100,000 NT in your pocket. So if you carry a few thousand, that's great. And then the other money that you have back in the hotel, maybe kind of move it around a little bit. Put some in your shoe, put some in a pocket, put some between the pages of a book or something like that. So if you do lose it, or if your hotel room gets broken into or something awful happens, it's not all in one giant pile conveniently there for the thief to take. If they do find some of it, you'll still have some of it in another place. When we split things, we separate them. If you're cutting up a pie to, share with your friends, you're kind of splitting that pie. If you break that chocolate bar in half to give half to your hungry friend, you're splitting that chocolate bar. You're kind of taking it from a larger mass and breaking it up in some way to smaller bundles or smaller amounts. And so this is so you can't lose it all at once. To do something all at once is to do it 100%. If someone takes all your money, they have stolen all your money at once. It is all gone. You have no more left.
Yes, indeed. When I travel with my wife and daughter, I split the money up. I give some to my wife, some to my daughter, keep some myself. So if I get robbed, they still have some money, etc., etc. And that way you won't lose everything all at once.
If you get kidnapped, they can use the money to hire Liam Neeson to go and find you, like in that Ransom movie or the...
Yeah, I don't remember the title of that movie. There were several of those.
There were.
I don't think I saw the whole ones. I think I only saw scenes from them. But in any case, yes, this is our first tip. Keep that money safe. And if you need to withdraw money from an ATM, choose one inside a bank rather than one on a busy street, and be especially careful in tourist hotspots because these tend to attract pickpockets. Okay, that reminds me of old news stories that said that there are lots of pickpockets hanging around Notre Dame or whatever, or the Eiffel Tower or something like that. So I guess those are places where you need to be especially careful. And sometimes, of course, if you're traveling overseas, you need to withdraw money or take out money from an ATM. And of course, if you want to do that, don't choose one that's outside on the street or whatever. Go to one inside a bank, because I guess criminals and thieves probably won't be too brave. They won't be brave enough to go into those kinds of places.
That's a good tip. You should also be aware that maybe some of the banks will lock the doors to the ATM if it is inside when the bank is not open. The bank is not in operation. So it might be good to make sure you withdrawals from an ATM during banking hours to use the one inside, because many of them are outside. So this is something you do want to kind of just check out your local area around your hotel when you first arrive, see where the banks are, the ATMs, and see what the operating hours are, and plan accordingly. And so be especially careful in tourist hotspots, because these tend to attract pickpockets. So a hotspot is a popular place to go, a landmark, a famous place, as Roger mentioned, Notre Dame, the Eiffel Tower in Paris, or the Colosseum in Rome, or Trafalgar Square and the Tower of London there in London. Popular places where many people go, big crowds of people, and among those big crowds, and because of those big crowds in many cases, you might find pickpockets. These are thieves who specialize in quietly and carefully removing things from your pocket or your purse, hopefully for them, without you noticing, and then they can kind of blend in and fade away into the crowd. They often work in teams. Someone will grab something and then hand it off to someone close by, and within seconds, that person will be moving through the crowd in the opposite direction. This is especially popular, especially common during the high season, when the crowds at these places are much bigger. The pickpockets have more crowds to hide in. So this is one of the problems if you're traveling during the summer, for example, when most people take their holidays, more pickpockets come out. If you can avoid that by traveling during the low season, that's another benefit of traveling at a less popular time. But do be aware. Also, hold your purse in front of you, right? A lot of people do that. Don't put your wallet in your back pocket. Put it in the front pocket of your pants in crowded places. Just sensible things like that. Now let's look at how technology can help in Get App Happy, the next section of our article.
Get App Happy. Fill your phone with useful applications. A translation app will help you communicate with locals, maps that work without an internet connection will prevent you from getting lost, and taxi or bus apps will make getting around easier. Having these apps ready will help you feel secure when you arrive.
第二部分看到名词 app 表示应用程式 ，app 通常是 application 的简写，可以说 Nigel has been using a fitness app to keep track of his workouts. Nigel 一直使用一款健身应用程式来记录他的锻炼情况。又或者说 I have an app on my phone that helps me learn English. 我手机上有一个应用程式可以帮助我学英语。下一个介绍名词 translation 它的意思是翻译或是译文。例如 Fans are looking forward to an English translation of the novel. 粉丝们正期待那本小说的英文译本。再看一个例子 The poor translation of the menu led to many problems for the restaurant. 菜单中拙劣的翻译给这间餐厅带来不少麻烦。继续看到形容词 secure 指的是安心的、安全的或是牢固的。举例来说 Ryan keeps his data secure by encrypting it. Ryan 把他的资料加密以确保安全。
Okay, so here's the second tip we have for today. It's entitled Get App Happy. That's kind of weird, but here app is short for application. Small little computer programs that you have on your smartphone. That's what an app is, or app, as you call them here in Taiwan. We don't say that overseas. We say app. So get app happy. In other words, get used to being happy with all sorts of apps on your phone. Fill your phone with useful applications or apps, okay? So look for some information about certain apps that are useful when you travel, maybe a map application or something like that. So fill your phone with those useful applications. For example, a translation app will help you communicate with locals. Maps that work without an internet connection will prevent you from getting lost, and taxi or bus apps will make getting around easier. So these are some examples here. A translation app might be very useful, especially if you go to Japan. When I went there a couple of years ago, I was very surprised that they basically don't speak any English at all there. And I didn't realize this until later. I pulled out Google Translate and started to use that, and it actually helped the trip become easier. You could actually communicate with people in restaurants. You just speak into the microphone and it translates the thing for you and it appears on the screen and show it to them. That is a translation app. And of course, maps are also very useful as well.
Absolutely. And also it says having these apps ready will help you feel secure when you arrive. That's a really good point. Make sure the apps are downloaded and installed and in functioning working order in your phone before you get there, right? To make sure that they're ready to go when you need them, so you're not fiddling with downloading them and things like that. And I would also say become familiar with the app a little bit. Just play with it for an hour or two or whatever before you leave home so you know how it works. This is definitely a good idea. Even in your hotel room before you actually leave for the day, you can sort of program in on a taxi or a metro or bus app the route you want to take. You can probably save it so you don't have to constantly recheck and re-enter the same information. So just be a little bit competent and prepared and comfortable with these apps, and they will be super, super convenient and also make it very easy for you to consult them when you need. And this will help you feel secure when you arrive. To feel secure is to feel safe. So personally safe, you're mentally, calm and relaxed. You know what's going on. You know what you plan to do. You don't feel like everything we do is going to be risky and we can get robbed at any moment. No, you want to enjoy yourself, not feel like you're sort of on guard the whole time. So make sure you're comfortable with things, know where you're going to go, and proceed about things in a good, sensible way. All right, another thing we're going to look at is documenting your documents. Those documents are very important, so yes, let's document them.
Document your documents. Make copies of your passport and ID before leaving Taiwan. Keep the originals in your hotel safe and carry the copies when you're out and about. Take photos of these documents too and email them to yourself. This way, if something happens to the originals, you'll still have the information you need to get help.
第三部分介绍 document 这个动词表示记载或是记录。例如 The scientists carefully documented the results of the experiment to ensure accuracy and thoroughness. 科学家仔细记录实验结果，以确保准确性和完整性。也可以说 The photographer documented the festival to show the cultural traditions of the village. 这位摄影师记录了这场节庆活动，以展现这座村庄的文化传统。最后看到 ID 这个名词表示身份证、身份证明文件。ID 为 identification 的简写，可以说 The police officer asked to see some form of personal ID. 警官要求看某种形式的个人身份证明。最后一个例子 The bank requires you to show ID to withdraw large amounts of cash. 银行要求大额提款必须出示身份证。
Okay, so our next bit of advice is to document your documents. Interesting title there because the word document can be both a verb and a noun. Here it's being used as a verb and a noun. The first word here is document, being used as a verb. That just means to record things, to make sure you have information about things. Sometimes you might be wondering how you're going to document your trip. Are you going to take pictures? Are you going to take videos or things like that? Are you going to stream things online or whatever? Yeah, how are you going to depict or portray your trip? How are you going to document it? But here we're talking about getting the information together, documenting your documents, and it could be like the advice you gave earlier today, Mike, where you get a copy of your passport. That's an example of documenting your documents, making sure you know where those documents are and having copies of them just in case.
There you go. So make copies of your passport and ID before leaving Taiwan. So the passport, of course, is your main international travel document. The ID would probably be your local Taiwan ID, because if you lose your passport or it gets damaged or stolen or whatever, you'll probably need that Taiwanese ID to get a new one issued in the country that you're visiting. They might issue a temporary passport, just allowing you to get home, but you'll need some other form of ID apart from the passport, because the passport may be the document that's missing. So bring both of them. Keep the originals in your hotel safe and carry the copies when you're out and about. Very good tip. So yeah, keep the originals, put your actual passport and your actual ID card, take it out of your wallet or purse or wherever, lock that up in the hotel safe, carry a paper version of it, fold it in your pocket or tucked into your wallet or somewhere like that. When you're out and about, that just kind of means when you're traveling, when you're actually out of the hotel, going around the city, visiting museums and sights and sounds and enjoying yourself. When you're out and about, or as the Scottish would say, when you're oot and aboot, take photos of these documents too and email them to yourself. That's actually a really good tip. I don't do that. I have a photo of my passport in my phone, but if I lose my phone, yeah, that's not really useful. But if I email that photo to myself, I could be at the police station or somewhere and just log into my email, and there it would be. It's a sort of following me around in the cloud, as it were, not physically locked into a machine. So that's another really good tip. This way, it says, if something happens to the originals, should they get lost, stolen, I mean, maybe your friend pushes you into a swimming pool and your passport gets all soggy, or it falls into a campfire or something like that. You never know what could happen. A monkey at the zoo steals it out of your purse and rips it in pieces. So no matter if whatever happens, if something happens to the originals, you'll still have the information you need to get help, because you don't want to end up spending, weeks in a foreign country paying for a hotel because you're waiting for your grandmother to send documents to you from Taiwan in order to get a new passport. That would really ruin your trip.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny, our very seasoned world traveler.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分提醒我们旅游时要妥善保管财物，如果需要从自动提款机领钱的话， Choose one inside a bank rather than one on a busy street. 选择银行内的，而不是热闹街道上的提款机。文中用到 rather than 是表达是点点点，而不是点点点。我们来整理一下它的用法。好，第一个，它可以当介系词，意思相当于 instead of， 后面是接名词或动名词。例如 Rather than taking the elevator, he chose to climb the stairs. 他没有搭电梯，而是选择爬楼梯。第二个 rather than 可以当连接词，必须连接词性相同的字词。如果用来连接不定词 to be 的话， 那么 rather than 后面的 to 常常会省略。举例来说 They decided to walk home rather than take a taxi. 他们决定走路回家，而不是搭计程车。句子里面 rather than take a taxi 这个 take 的前方就省略了 to。顺便补充一下 would rather A than B 的用法。Would rather 是表达宁愿宁可，比较想要什么什么。那么 would 常常会跟主格人称代名词缩写成撇 d， 像 I'd rather、we'd rather 等等。那么 would rather A than B 是表达宁可要 A 而不要 B， 其中的 A 跟 B 要用原形动词。举例来说 She'd rather read a book than watch TV. 她宁可看书而不要看电视。好，那么课文第二部分的旅游建议是善用手机应用程式，像翻译应用程式可以协助沟通，离线地图能够避免迷路。文中是用 prevent you from getting lost 来表达避免迷路。那这个动词 prevent 它具有阻止、预防的意思，我们可以用 prevent somebody or something from 加上动词 ing 去表达阻止某人做某事，预防某事发生。Prevent 还可以用 stop 或者是 keep 代换，意思相近。这边造两个例句 Don't let fear stop you from chasing your dreams. 别让恐惧阻止你追求梦想。The storm kept them from traveling to the area. 暴风雨使得他们无法前往那个地区。好，那也顺便补充两个类似的用法。第一个 protect 加受词 from 再加名词或动名词，这可以表达保护什么什么免于怎么样，保护什么什么不受点点点的伤害。举例来说 Wearing a mask can help protect you from the flu. 戴口罩有助于保护你免于感染流感。第二个补充的是 save 加上受词 from 加上名词或动名词，这是表达使免于点点点，拯救、挽救点点点。例如 He risked his life to save a boy from drowning. 他冒着生命危险拯救一个男孩免于溺毙。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Split.Mrs. Moon asked the class to split into small groups for discussion. Withdraw. Sebastian withdrew $300 from his savings account to pay for the new bike. App. I use a weather app to check the forecast every day. Translation. Accurate translation typically requires deep cultural knowledge related to both of the languages in question. Secure. She felt secure in their relationship.and trusted his loyalty completely. Document. The scientist documented every step of the experiment so that it could be easily repeated. ID. A guard checked everyone's ID at the entrance to the building.
Discussion Starter starts now!
It's time now for our discussion starter, and the question is, what is another useful safety tip for travelers? How would following it help travelers stay safe?
All right, I would say another good tip is to visit a travel store in your local city before you leave. Doing so can help by introducing or showing you other travel items that you might not know exist. I went to a travel store and I found these little envelopes, these little sort of card carriers that have metal foil inside. You put your card in there and it protects the magnetic strip and the IC chip from being scanned, because they have these people with sort of computer scanners. They wave it by your wallet in your pocket or your purse, and they might be able to pick up your credit card number, your PIN numbers. I didn't know these little foil envelopes existed, but they're very, very useful, and yeah, they give you a certain level of safety. So without going to a travel store, I wouldn't have known that such an item was available.
Interesting. I ought to look into that myself, but I've heard that it's a good idea for travelers to simply travel with a travel group, okay? They pretty much take care of everything for you, and they guide you around to the museums and the shopping areas, and you're pretty much protected the whole time. Yeah, just hire a travel agency and let them take care of everything for you. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.